You know, AutoZone is great at helping their customers.
True. From free battery charging to loan a tool, they help people get in the zone.
I was thinking, what if they also helped us send 4 listeners to the ESPYs?
Greeny, that's exactly what they're doing. It's the Mike and Mike experience at the ESPYs presented by AutoZone. Folks just have to listen and watch us from April 20th through May 15th. All the details are at espnradio.com/Mike's SB contest.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
It's called The Zone. AutoZone's going to help you get there.
National League Central rivals go head-to-head this weekend when the Pirates face the Cubs at Wrigley.
Swing and a miss. He stuck him out.
The pregame at 3 Eastern, first pitch at 4. Saturday on ESPN Radio and the new ESPN app. This is the Best of Mike and Mike podcast on ESPNradio.com. The Best of Mike and Mike.
Hey, it's Greeny. Thanks for checking out the Best of Mike and Mike podcast. It's what we have for you on Wednesday. Our reaction to the Deflategate punishment, Tedd Wells defending his report. We debate the difference between gamesmanship and cheating, and Golic may have actually been right. Plus, plenty on the NBA and more with Ryan Clark and Marcellus Wiley.
The Best of Mike and Mike.
Before we do anything else, let us say thank you very much to Adnan Verk, Jay Williams, Danny Cannell, who did a terrific job yesterday on an extraordinary day in sports. We were extraordinarily sorry not to be here yesterday. As most of you probably know, maybe you don't, it's not your business to be concerned about it. We were at the Upfronts in New York City where we announced that our show was moving to New York in February, which is very exciting news for us and very exciting news for everyone at ESPN. And the timing of it obviously could not have worked out worse based upon the news of the day. But when we called in, and from everything that I heard, the show was terrific yesterday, jam-packed with great reaction to the Tom Brady stuff. So our appreciation enormously to those guys.
And those guys, we knew those guys could handle it incredibly well, which they did in the guest, because yesterday was the day of reaction to all of it, and we certainly will go down that road as well.
Absolutely right. We'll get to all of that. We'll tell you a little more about what happened at the Upfront yesterday as well. There was a bunch of news yesterday. Those of you who listen to ESPN Radio will certainly be influenced or impacted by. So we'll get to all that as well. But let's start off the top. Bubba, give me some music.
Off the top.
Let's just go through the notes on what happened yesterday into last night in the world of sports. And it starts with the Cavaliers, Mike, taking a 3-2 lead over the Bulls, who were just destined never to be healthy.
Incredible.
LeBron James was phenomenal. His numbers were huge. But as we'll get into in a moment, my belief is all these people picking Chicago to win the series, you wouldn't have if you'd known they were going to continue to routinely get hurt. They were just destined never to be full strength.
Last couple of years have been Derrick Rose. Paul Gasol now is the big name and the big body that's out of this series, and he may not be back for the next game either. We'll see. But LeBron last night, 38 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals, 3 blocks, no turnovers from LeBron at all in that one. And one of the key blocks was with the score 101-99, and he blocks a Derrick Rose shot out of bounds that would have tied the game when the Bulls did make a nice run back. We'll get more into that game, but this is one where there's a lot of nicked up people, including LeBron, and he had his best game of the series.
There are 2 more Game 5s tonight. Hawks and Warriors looking to protect home court, and these games are huge, Mike. We know the numbers on Game 5 when the series is tied 2-2.
You've heard them a bunch. 2-2, best of 7 series. The Game 5 winner goes on to win the series right around 82% of the time. So this is a huge game, both the top seeds at home.
The other game last night involved the Rockets staying alive. James Harden put up a huge performance in a triple-double. Clippers just sort of looked as though they were, all right, well, we'll go home and win Game 6. This was a non-game.
We'll go win it in L.A. The Clippers are the only team in NBA history to win consecutive playoff games by 25 or more points and then lose by 20 or more the next game, which so these haven't been real nail-biters.
Blake Griffin still put his numbers up, though. We'll go through all that in just a minute. And then they are probably the 2 best words in sports tonight, Game 7.
Game 7 at the Garden. I mean, Capitals and the Rangers. And how about for the Capitals? This is not good. They're hoping to avoid blowing a 3-1 series lead for a 5th time. For a 5th time. I mean, you're going to feel so good when you're up 3-1 from a player standpoint and a fan standpoint, but this could be the 5th time they blow a 3-1 lead.
It would actually be the 10th time that they blow a 2-game lead, meaning 2-zip or 3-1, which would be the most in NHL history. So the Capitals do not play well from in front. We'll see if they can play well tonight against Lundqvist and the Rangers. And finally, a baseball note. What is happening to Steven Strasburg?
Yeah, Strasburg, he struggled again last night. He allowed 8 runs in 3 1/3. The 8 runs allowed represent the most he's allowed in his career. His ERA is a little over 6. He's given up 50 hits in his 36 innings pitched, he just the wonder is, and many are, what's an injury going along with this? Because you see his fastball is still up there. Teams are connecting with it. Arizona, the Diamondbacks, certainly not one of the most offensive-minded teams out there, and they just absolutely ripped them last night.
Strasburg's ERA of 6.06 is 135th out of 156 starting pitchers with at least 3 starts. So a disastrous start for Steven Strasburg of the pitching-rich Washington Nationals. That's Mike and Mike's Off the Top, presented by Progressive Insurance. You can save hundreds on your car, business, or recreational vehicle insurance from a local independent agent. Go to Progressive.com today. Now that's Progressive. A little more color on the basketball, and then we'll get into the Tom Brady stuff. As far as, look, LeBron, phenomenal. Yeah. Right? Phenomenal. Yeah. What else can you say? LeBron is incredible. Of all the stats coming out of last night's game, the one that I like the most is this. LeBron James led his team. You can talk all you want about how many points, how many rebounds, and how many assists. And there are a number of statistics. Mike gave you one a minute ago, and there are many more about the specifics. But it was also the 33rd time, just to show you to what degree LeBron James has carried teams in the playoffs. You ready for this?
Yeah.
It was the 33rd time in his career in the playoffs that he was his team's outright leader in points, rebounds, and assists in all three of those categories. 33 times. That's by far the most in NBA history. Next is Larry Bird with 13. 13 versus 33 by a margin of 20, more than double the number of times that anyone has ever been his team's outright leader in points, rebounds, and assists. Now, those stats don't go all the way back to the inception of the league, but it certainly goes back through the era of most of the stars we talk about on this show regularly, and it is just a continued illustration of LeBron James' greatest quality, which is his versatility. He does everything, and last night he did it all.
And really having to put that team on his back with Kyrie Irving and with his foot situation. Shumpert was back last night. That certainly helps for them. As we mentioned before, Paul Gasol's still out for the Bulls. They just can't shake the injury bug, whether it's Derrick Rose the last couple of years or Gasol right now. But this was a game. To me, the number that LeBron James, and you hear him talking about it, that he's going to be most impressed with last night is the 0. And that's a 0 under the turnover column. He had all the points, the rebounds, assists, everything he did, all he was handling the ball, and he didn't turn the ball over. To him, he said he was surprised to hear it after the game, but he said to him that's the most important number. And I get it. For as much as you touch the ball, you see 6, 7, 8 turnovers out of him, and that just aggravates him. So no turnovers here. He's been shooting 38% for the series. He's not been shooting well, and he's still not shooting well from three-point line. It was just 1 of 5, but he shot 58% overall last night. No turnovers, as I mentioned. The big block on Derrick Rose when he could have tied the game at 101 as time was running out or getting to the end of that game. So all those numbers are great, and the lists are great. We know how great he is, but that turnover number is key for as much as he has to handle the ball and as much as they're on his shoulders because of some of the injuries.
And Kyrie played well last night.
He did,
Kyrie
Irving
played well last night. He scored 25 points. And so if you look at the two of them last night, LeBron and Kyrie combined to shoot 23 of 40 from the floor. They combined for 63 points. Jimmy Butler and Derrick Rose combined for 45. Derrick Rose just didn't hold up his end of the bargain. He didn't score the last 23 minutes of that game.
Derrick Rose he had 16 points, 12 in the first quarter, 2 of 15 from the field the rest of the way. So he was basically a non-factor the rest of the way after coming out of the gate strong.
When they made that comeback in the fourth quarter, it was all around him.
Well, Cleveland was up 90-73. The Bulls went on an 11-0 run. It was Dunleavy who had 6 of those points. We told you that Butler had a monster game for him as well. They got themselves back in that game. I mean, you thought Cleveland they were pulling away. The biggest lead in that game for Cleveland was 17. But the Bulls, came back again. Again, the shot in the air to tie it up by Rose. It
didn't stay in the air long.
No, it didn't, as LeBron swatted it.
It stayed in the air, but going in the other direction.
It left his hand, we'll say that. And then quickly it was not going anywhere near the basket.
Here's Chauncey Billups on LeBron.
When it comes to the playoffs, you win the best way you can win. I mean, in this series, it's kind of gone that way throughout the series. I mean, this guy's banged up, that guy's banged up. It's a series of runs. I mean, it's been an ugly series, to be honest with you, basketball-wise. You have a guy here and there stepping out, having big games. You look at LeBron James tonight, 38 points, 12 rebounds. On the night that he knew you had to have a win at home, he didn't squander an opportunity.
And as far as the Bulls, I root for the Bulls with my history in Chicago and my wife being from Chicago. I feel a little bad for them. This is going to be it for them. I don't believe that they have a chance of winning the last two games.
Yeah.
I know people will tell me that I'm crazy. Whatever it is, everyone yelled at me when I said it the other day. When LeBron hit that shot, that dagger, Sunday afternoon at the United Center, the series was over to me. And especially now that the Gasol doesn't play again. And I think that this is going to be it for Thibodeau, and whatever direction the thing winds up going, it'll go. However they get remade. I think they have still the makings of a good team, and
I agree.
We'll see where it winds up being. But the legacy of this group is it was never healthy.
Yep.
And you were never able to see what they could have done if they had all stayed together.
That's why there was so much anticipation for this postseason after Derrick Rose comes back from the meniscus surgery and he's playing well, and you think, okay, they finally have their team together, and then we see what happened to Cleveland with Love being out, J.R. Smith missing the first two games with suspension, and thought this was the chance for Chicago. While we still stayed with our pick of Cleveland, it was a shaky stay. But you kind of had to see how it played out. But then, you see the injury to Gasol, and we'll see. Now, that's the one thing I'm holding back on. If he can come back now, even if he comes back in the next game, you're talking about nursing a hammy, and hammies are just a bad lingering injury. So I don't even know if he'll be able to play the next game or not, but we'll see. And if he can, how will he be able to play it? And I mentioned Derrick Rose's numbers. Well, he aggravated the stinger he had in his shoulder. So you're right. I mean, it's a team that they were the last 2 years, they're going to be so much fun to watch in the playoffs. They're not going to win, but they're that tough, scrappy team. They're going to make the other teams work for it, and they did. But this year it was actually, hey, well, maybe now as they're all healthy, they're able to make that run themselves. And then with what happened to Cleveland, it's like, okay, Chicago looking pretty good right now. And I agree with you, it's going to end because now out of Chicago, they're talking about keeping their coach all of a sudden after all we've heard is they're getting rid of him. He's going to be gone. He may end up down in New Orleans if Calipari's not there. Who knows? We'll get into that. But I'm with you. And that would be a shame because you got to like the pieces of the puzzle that Chicago has right now, especially a guy like Jimmy Butler.
And Rose, we talked about Derrick Rose's number last night, 1 of 12 in the second half after going 6 of 12 in the first half. So tough night there. Again, the other game last night, Houston just obliterates the Clippers. Yeah. 2 Game 5s tonight with the NBA, and then the Game 7 tonight, obviously at the Garden, which has a chance to be phenomenal. And if history is any guide, the one thing you can say for sure is that Henrik Lundqvist is only going to give up 1 goal.
Exactly.
Because he's played a lot of Game 7s, and he only gives up 1 goal. So that's the one thing. If they're going to lose that game tonight, they're going to lose it 1-0.
Right.
That's what history says. All right, Mike and Mike, in exactly 1 minute, we'll get you our thoughts on everything we've seen with Tom Brady. And there was certainly a lot of new stuff from yesterday, including an angry reaction from the man really at the center of the controversy. You'll hear that in exactly 1 minute after Citrix go-to meeting. Mike, think about the time, the money, and the hassle it takes to hold a meeting, especially if you're bringing people in from all over the country or whatever the case may be. Our recommendation, meet your clients and coworkers online with Citrix go-to meeting. Saves you tons of time, tons of money. It's a much smarter way to meet.
Yeah, that way you can meet them whenever you need to, wherever you are, because with go-to meeting, you meet from any computer, tablet, or smartphone. No travel expense. That's huge. Or no, hey, our guy, we got to hold off. Our guy's held up in traffic. You don't have that issue either. Your team can join by clicking a link. No sign-ups, no speed bumps. Turn on your webcam with HD quality. It's like being in the same room. You can share screens to present, review, get feedback in real time. Because with GoToMeeting, everyone sees what you're seeing so your team can get on the same page. Sign up for GoToMeeting today. Give it a shot. 30 days for free. That's what we're giving you, so you got nothing to lose. Visit GoToMeeting.com. Click the Try It Free button. Do it now and have your first meeting up and running in minutes. That's GoToMeeting.com for your free 30-day trial.
All right, Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline this morning will include Hubie Brown. All right. You're Portland. You got 26 seconds left. My Hubie needs a little work. I haven't talked to him in too long. Anyway, Hubie in the 9 o'clock hour today. Marcellus Wiley, he was calling for an 8-game suspension of Tom Brady. They go 4. He'll join us later this morning.
And he'll also talk about his love for the Clippers. I believe his bed sheets are L.A. Clipper bed sheets as well.
Clipper crazy.
He's nuts.
And they look good right now.
Yeah, they do.
Last night notwithstanding. Ryan Clark today, Jason Stark's Trivia, Dave McMenamin is with the Cavs. So all that, again, all our guests as always on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline. As far as the Brady stuff is concerned, just top line, and then we'll work our way down to the more specifics. I'm not at all surprised. I shouldn't say I'm not at all surprised. I wasn't very surprised by how hard the league hit Brady. I was a little surprised by how hard they hit the Patriots. I understand all of it. I'm a little surprised by it, and I think it is a little heavy-handed. That would be my top-line reaction. We can obviously get a lot more specific as we go, and we will. But that's my top line. I'm a little bit surprised at how hard they hit the team, and I think overall it felt like a little bit too much to me.
It definitely felt like too much to me, but in the same vein as you just said, I can see why they did what they did. They're just going to basically come out swinging, and a lot of people wonder, would it be the same against an owner? Because let's say when they nail the Patriots, that's Robert Kraft, okay? Mm-hmm. We know Bill Belichick is in there, but when you're hitting a team with $1 million fine and taking their draft picks away, Bill Belichick will deal with the draft picks, but the $1 million against the team and the hit to your, the legacy talk of not just Tom Brady, but this team, what's the thought going to be of them as they've been winning Super Bowls, a bunch of Super Bowls over the last decade and a half, to what your thought of him is even more important to Robert Kraft than the million. We sit there and joke about, the million's nothing. Listen, the million's nothing as long as you don't have to give up the million. Can he afford the million? Yeah, he can afford the million. But I think a lot of it is about the look, and the perception. And Robert Kraft is mad about that. And that, I think a lot of people wondered where the league would go against one of its owners, because even though it was Troy Vincent and whoever he looked at, everybody is saying it's Roger Goodell doing this because Roger Goodell runs the NFL and Roger Goodell is hired by the owners. So would he do this to his owner? And some think, does he go too far to make sure he's setting the tone that, yes, he'll do this to the owners if he's going to do it to the players? Basically, he's in a can't-win situation at this point. I thought it would be a game. We both thought it would be a game for Tom Brady. And so I thought it was too much, but I'm not surprised the NFL went where they went with this. I thought they would go a bit heavy-handed.
The two things that I think come out of this to me are, I think that it was a game for the deflation. And look, there's no I guess I can't say there's no question. In my opinion,
and it probably happened.
He did it. I mean, he was involved in it. He did it. The debate is over how significant it is.
Right, exactly.
And my feeling all along has been that it isn't as significant as it has been made out to be.
You and me both.
Now, that's it. You can't do it. I can't sit here and say you can do it no matter how insignificant it is. So I believe that some sort of disciplinary action, and I thought one game was suitable for that. The non-cooperation, which despite the protestation of Don Yee, the agent for Tom Brady, clearly was outlined yesterday by Tedd Wells.
Yes, it was.
Is a factor. And we spent all yesterday with 1 million executives. I mean, from Bob Iger to John Skipper. For those of you who don't know, he's the CEO of Disney, on to the president of ESPN, and all this. And there was a lot of this conversation. Yeah. And as I said to you, John Skipper is your boss. At the end of the day, if he wants to talk to you 12 times, you can't say to him, well, listen, I've already talked to you 11 times. I'm not going in for a 12th. It turns out that the 5th time they wanted to talk to McNally wasn't really the 5th time. It wasn't
really the 5th time. For Tedd Wells, it would have been the 2nd time. The NFL's investigation before Tedd Wells had talked to McNally 3 times. So, there's that in there. But the bottom line is, if you feel you have nothing to hide, you let your people talk.
All of that notwithstanding, not turning over your data or whatever it is. Someone made the comparison yesterday when we were chatting about this backstage at the upfronts to not taking a drug test. It's the same thing as failing a drug test, right? You're supposed to be in a certain place, you're supposed to know where you are and all of that, and if you're not there at the appointed time, it's a positive test.
Yes.
So to me, that was one game. So I would have, if I had been guessing what was going to happen, or if they had said essentially it's 2 games, one for the non-cooperation and one for the deflation of the footballs, that's sort of what I would have thought seemed like punishment that fit the crime. As far as hitting the team, they clearly hit the team with a lack of institutional control. Because I don't think anyone in their right minds thinks that Robert Kraft was aware, or that Bill Belichick in this case. I believe that Bill Belichick was not aware that a little ball was air was being let out of the ball.
I agree with you, but they're responsible.
Lack of institutional control and past history.
Yeah.
So I think those two things came into account.
Without a doubt, I think the past history came into account, and these are their guys. From the part-time employee to the full-time employee to your quarterback. This is your organization. You're going to get held responsible for it. So you got hammered for it.
And they wouldn't make McNally available. Yeah. And you'll hear Tedd Wells say that in a second. I just sort of want to give our thoughts. Then we'll let you hear all the Tedd Wells audio from yesterday. The point of it is, what happens now, I think this thing gets much uglier. If you watch the way the Patriots are circling the wagons,
uglier from Robert Kraft's side.
Yes, the Patriots are going to make this ugly
because it's easy from Tom Brady's side. Tom Brady is going to appeal. He has till tomorrow at some time to appeal, and then it'll go to an appeal. It'll either get knocked down or it won't, and that'll be the end of it. With Robert Kraft, the route they go, you're right. This could get pretty ugly.
Well, many people within the sounds of our voices right now may not be old enough to remember the heyday of Al Davis.
Mm-hmm.
But Al Davis, when he was the owner, the owner of the Renegade Raiders, the true silver and black Raiders, before they became the laughingstock they've basically been for the last decade, the just win baby Raiders, Al Davis was basically an island unto himself.
Sure was.
Fighting against the commissioner, Pete Rozelle, and the league. And the more you read about this, and the more you just look at the initial reaction, it feels like Robert Kraft might go that way, which, if someone had said a year ago that was going to happen, I would have said is the least likely thing I'd ever heard in my life.
Because remember, after Spygate, he basically, they accepted that.
He took the rap.
They took the rap. They said, okay, we take the discipline and we move on. Here, remember Robert Kraft, before the discipline came out, said, basically, we're going to leave it alone. We're going to accept it and we're going to move on, until it was $1 million and a couple of draft picks and obviously the notoriety that comes with that, which I think Robert Kraft thinks a lot about how his franchise, how his organization is perceived. So I heard those comparisons as well. The only thing I'll say, do we think Robert Kraft has some Al Davis in him? I mean, Al Davis was something. And now, listen, Al Davis, for those that are young, was huge for this league. Huge with what he meant to the NFL and to professional football.
He was a coach. He was the commissioner of the AFL.
Monster what his contributions were. But he also was known more for moving his teams and suing the league all the time. I don't know if Robert Kraft, while I think he's mad and I think there'll be a fight, I don't know if I'm going to go that far, because you got to have it in your DNA to have no problem doing that. And Al Davis didn't have a problem doing that. I don't know if Kraft has it in him to go that far. Now, I could be completely wrong, because you never know how someone fights back until you pop them in the face. And let me tell you what, they got popped in the face. So how do they fight back?
Well, so far they've come out punching in every way that they initially can.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Mike and Mike.
Guys, when you buy your clothes at DXL, you look good. But you feel like a rock star. So if you want to look and feel like you'll find all the brands you love, waist size 38 and up, all in one awesome store. DXL, you're looking good. Right now, select dress shirts are just $49.50 each when you buy 2 or more.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline. Winning word in this hour. Your chance to win a trip to the ESPYs. Who was that last soundbite there saying he looks like a buffoon? So I don't know that I'd go that far, but I do believe that Kraft, that was Dan Shaughnessy from the Boston Globe, thank you, because I do believe that Kraft is putting all his backing, and it's substantial. Look, Robert Kraft is a highly respected person within the league and everything else, and he's backing Brady, right, Mike? He's pushing all his chips to the middle of the table on Brady. At the end of the day, he doesn't have the facts on his side. He just doesn't.
He's backing Brady. He's saying nothing happened, yet he suspended the 2 employees. I mean, that's something I think should be the next question for him whenever he's going to speak again, is if you didn't do anything, why are they suspended?
If you're so 100% behind the science, the scientific portion of your own investigation of this, that you believe concludes, in your own words, whether it's beyond a reasonable doubt or anything else, that the balls themselves were not tampered with, and you 100% back Brady, then why are these 2 guys suspended by the team without pay? That is an acknowledgement that they did something wrong. And then if you read their text messages, I mean, it's impossible not to conclude Brady did it, and then Brady won't show you his.
Yeah.
So it's not that complicated. Again, for those of you just joining us, and we apologize for not being here yesterday, and again, for those of you, our endless thanks to Adnan and Danny and Jay Will for being here yesterday for us. My belief is that Brady did it, and that the punishment is too harsh. I don't think the punishment fits the crime.
We're in agreement on that, but we were not shocked that the league went where they did.
So now let's pick up the conversation where I only gave you 8 seconds to respond to me.
Yeah, you did.
At the end of the hour. The one group of people who've been noticeably quiet through this are the other quarterbacks in the NFL. Why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, listen, this is one thing I have heard more often than not, quite honestly, that this isn't done as frequently as, guys that sprayed their jerseys or like the Chargers got busted for stick them on their towels, which is illegal to do. So I from what I understand, it doesn't happen as frequent as things like that. So I don't know if it's that, well, they're guilty as well, so they just don't want to open up, as opposed to they just don't want to come out against another guy for something like this. You know what I mean? Because you and I, we're so agree that, yeah, okay, I get it, but all right. This isn't the worst thing in the world. So we said where our discipline would go, but we get why the league went further. So quite honestly, I don't think others want to come out and be heavy-handed who are playing in the league, especially quarterbacks, and say, yeah, you do that, you get busted for it, go sit down, for a month. I don't think they feel this warrants something like that, quite honestly.
The first member of the fraternity, if you will, the Great Quarterbacks Club, this list of Hall of Fame quarterbacks who have like their own sort of sainted place in the pantheon of American sports, who has commented on this in any sort of a way that would appear to be remotely anti-Brady, is John Elway, who's now, of course, the president of the Broncos, who at first said the punishment didn't matter to him because he knew that Tom Brady was going to be playing in Week 12, which is when the teams face off. Asked if the league's heavy hammer was good for the game, Elway said, quote, "The integrity of the game is number one. I support the commissioner 100%, end quote. Now, maybe that does, maybe that doesn't sound like he's saying Brady did something terrible. He's backing the commissioner. That isn't necessarily the same thing. Peyton Manning, Elway's quarterback, I mean, if you remember his comments from last week, look, he's my friend. He'll always be my friend. I don't know what happened. I have nothing else for you. Mm-hmm. The quarterbacks are staying the heck out of this.
Yeah, they are. I don't think they want to get too heavily involved. I don't think they want to point the finger too much because, honestly, I don't think they think this is a really big deal. But it got made a big deal, and we know it did because of the organization, because of the player, and where this went from there. So I think that's part of it, that they just don't think, wow, there's a whole lot being made of this, and should there have been?
Mike Tirico's a really smart guy, and I had a chance to spend a lot of time with him yesterday at the upfront when I wasn't chasing Darrelle Revis around. And,
you were embarrassing that.
Revis likes me. I don't want to hear it from you.
Revis is a very nice young man who puts up with you, and I always have to come over and separate the two of you.
Not fair. Totally untrue. That said, I did talk to Tirico a lot, and he was making a comparison of the league hitting the Patriots, despite the fact that there was no evidence in the report that the team, the organization, knew it, to the way the NCAA uses the term institutional control, a lack of institutional control, right? They have no way of knowing this kid didn't turn in his term paper, someone else wrote it. They have no way of knowing that this guy got a free sandwich at this place or that this guy's parents are driving around a car someone gave them. Let's say that you can't realistically expect them to know that, but things that happen on your watch, they are your responsibility. Right. We're telling you it's your job to know.
Yes.
Do you think that if in fact the league acknowledges, does not believe, certainly Robert Kraft, the notion that Robert Kraft knows that the ball boys are letting air out of the ball before the game is ridiculous.
Yes.
To fine, them $1 million to take the draft picks. Institutional control. Reasonable or not reasonable to you?
Well, I think it was all heavy-handed, but I do think Spygate came, history. We see that with players on the field. With an illegal hit or a personal foul that they get fined for, do they have a history of it? They get banged a little more. If they don't, they don't. So I think with institutional control, isn't that a reason for some of the penalty in Spygate of what they were doing? Well, that's going to come back now and say, okay, it happened, 8 years ago or whatever it was. Now we have another institutional control thing here, so I think that adds on to the penalty. I think it was all heavy-handed, but again, I'm saying I understand why the league wanted to go a little stronger, but I also believe that they brought in Spygate and said, we have a little history here.
And there's more. There is the fact that in the words of Tedd Wells, and I'll play them for you right now, The Patriots did not cooperate fully with this investigation. And I think that this had been somewhat misconstrued or misreported or misunderstood. Here's Tedd Wells. It's a little long, but it's worth hearing. His explanation of the one significant way in which the Patriots organization did not cooperate with his investigation.
The Patriots provided me, in my opinion, with substantial cooperation, except in one critical and crucial area. I wanted to do a second interview of Jim McNally. Jim McNally was the second Patriots person I interviewed. I wanted, after I had interviewed others, including Tom Brady, to do a second interview of McNally to put certain questions to him. And I had also discovered, after the first interview, one of the most important text messages where Jim McNally not only calls himself the Deflator, but says he has not gone to ESPN ... yet, which is akin, as far as I am concerned, to saying I have not gone to the media yet to report what I'm doing. And I had not found that text at the time of the first interview. I wanted to confront him with that. I asked for a second interview. I said I would go to New Hampshire. I would interview him in the morning, afternoon, night. I didn't care. I would make myself available whenever he was free. And not only did they say I couldn't interview him, they said they would not even tell him about my request for an interview. So on that particular point, which was critical to this investigation, they did not cooperate, and the report sets that out.
Let's make one thing clear. The Patriots side of this was this would have been the fifth time he was interviewed. Tedd Wells is saying the first three were done by the league when they were doing their own investigation.
Before they brought in Tedd Wells.
He only got to interview the guy once, and then, again, as you just heard him describe in detail, he's found significant evidence subsequent to that, wanted to ask him again, and the Patriots would not cooperate.
Again, just so you get that, the NFL interviewed him 3 times, and then when they hired Tedd Wells, they told Tedd Wells, start from scratch. Act like nothing happened before that. And from New England side, they're saying, well, something did happen. This would have been a 5th interview. But I'm on Tedd Wells' side on this one. He only interviewed him one time, got information after that he wanted to ask him, and the Patriots said you can't talk to him. I mean, are you kidding me? If you didn't do anything, let him talk to him. That part I agree completely with Tedd Wells, and as much as you want to back even Patriot Ray over here or any Patriot fans that want to explain why you're not telling them that they can interview McNally again.
And explain why
give a real reason.
And explain why he calls himself the Deflator.
Yeah.
And explain why he's saying I haven't gone to ESPN
now,
yet.
If you want to say, well, you could say he was goofing around. If you want to try and somehow talk your way out of that, you feel free to try. I don't think anybody's going to believe you. But give me one good reason why the Patriots wouldn't make him available in an NFL investigation.
And have subsequently suspended him without pay.
Yeah, but they said they didn't do anything.
Tedd Wells also said Tom Brady was not fully cooperative.
I told Mr. Brady and his agents I was willing not to take possession of the phone. I said I don't want to see any private information. I said you keep the phone. You, the agent, Mr. Yee, you can look at the phone. You give me documents that are responsive to this investigation, and I will take your word that you have given me what's responsive. And they still refused.
So basically, Tedd Wells acknowledged that Brady was cooperative in their discussions. He spoke with him. He explained in his words what he believed happened, but that he would not turn over, even under the circumstances you just heard Wells describe, any of the text information that would ostensibly have been with McNally and Jastrzemski going back and forth. Listen, I'm not Sherlock Holmes. And you don't have to be to conclude exactly what Tedd Wells did. It is a reasonable conclusion. It is not proof beyond a reasonable doubt.
No.
You could not convict Tom Brady in a court of law of having committed a crime, which, again, this is not.
No.
But it is clear that it is more probable than not, exactly what he said, that Brady was involved. And I think that the Patriots' steadfast defense of him looks a little silly. Now, again, I think that the reaction is greatly overly done. And there are a million reasons why that may be, based upon a terrible year the league has had in a variety of ways.
Right.
And they need to do this and they need to do that. And should Tom Brady be bearing the brunt of that? Probably not. And did you want to really bring down the reputation of your golden boy, of your big star, and all that kind of stuff? That's a whole other question for a whole other day. But at the end of the day, the facts are what the facts are. I don't know how anyone could read this report and not reasonably conclude that Tom Brady was somehow involved in this. And you would add to that his own behavior, which has not been the behavior of an outraged, innocent person. I'll tell you what, I will change my tune if he sues the league.
Yeah.
If he sues the league, as Donald Trump is suggesting he should, no. But if he was completely innocent, he might.
Or if he was completely innocent, we may have already heard a screaming from the mountaintop response about that. But
if he was completely innocent, they wouldn't have found what they found.
Yeah,
it's not that complicated.
We agree. So now as it spins forward, how does it go? Brady has till tomorrow at some point to appeal, which all signs point toward him appealing, and that will be the easy part, quite honestly. It'll either be denied or it will get knocked down a game or two, possibly. And then from Robert Kraft's side, as we said, he can be mad and he can try and fight this and he can try and fight Roger Goodell. But that's going to come down to he can't do anything to Roger Goodell without, approval from ownership. And I don't even know where that can go, other owners. So it's going to come down to Kraft's relationship with other owners more than anything else.
That is the best point that you have made on this or on anything in a long time. That the fight now.
Really? I thought I've made some other pretty good points.
You've said nothing of substance in 15 years, but this was good.
Okay.
The fight now is Kraft v. Goodell, right? Mm-hmm. And the jury is the 31 other owners.
Right.
Which side do you think they are on? Because I think they're on Goodell's side.
I think they're on Goodell's side, absolutely.
Me too. Maybe not all of them.
Absolutely.
Maybe not all of them, and maybe not willing to come out and say so.
Enough of them will be behind the scenes enough. We're not going to know everything that gets aired in this, but behind the scenes, enough of them will be behind Roger Goodell.
Yeah, I think so. I think that there are a lot of owners who like this. Look, I mean, from a purely competitive standpoint, Tom Brady got knocked down. I went out yesterday. I was after the thing was over yesterday. I went out and I was at the golf course, and a friend of mine who's a Jet fan said, "Here's where they got it wrong, Greeny. Here's where they got it wrong. The 4-game suspension should have been the road games against every team in the division, and the Jets twice."
Yeah,
that's what. So this is the kind. So that's what the other owners are thinking.
Yeah.
Right? They're thinking how this affects them.
Right.
They're not worried about Tom Brady's legacy.
Right.
But to some degree, I think that is part of the discussion.
Oh, that's part of it.
This sticks to him. It can't not.
There are ancillary discussions of this. It definitely will be in his paragraph. He's going to get in the Hall of Fame. He's going to get in the Hall of Fame on the first vote, as far as I'm concerned. I know people are questioning that. I'm not. By the time it finally comes to however many more years he plays, then 5 years after that, he's getting in on the first vote. But it will follow him.
Patriot Ray is cracking me up. Ray Netchie, our producer, Patriot Ray, he just sent me a note. Other fans love this, but wait until the NFL comes after their quarterback.
He's
next.
A hero.
He's a hero. He has signed we have all these group emails. Every single one of them, he finishes with #Free Brady.
Unbelievable.
He's going to get the jersey now.
It kind of hurt that you said that about me.
What?
That's the only good point I made in 15 years?
Well, you're focusing on the negative. I'm saying you made a good point. Focus on the positive. It was a compliment. Don't pay no attention to the backhanded nature of the compliment.
I'm going to compliment the left side of your face with the punch I'm going to give the right side of your face. How about that for a compliment?
That's always your answer to everything.
Yep.
Mike and Mike.
The one and only Ryan Clark in studio with us for a good portion of time this morning. Looking forward to that with his Subway Fresh Take. Let me very quickly take you through SportsCenter headlines from last night. Rockets and Cavs, your NBA winners. Cavs take a 3-2 series lead. Rockets stay alive behind a triple-double from James Harden. Lightning beat the Canadiens 4-1. They win that series in 6. They await the winner of tonight's Game 7 at the Garden between the Rangers and Capitals. SportsCenter with Mike and Mike, brought to you by Orkin. To catch a pest, you have to think like a pest. Orkin, pest control down to a science. Visit OrkinMan.com today. And with that said, I can officially extend a welcome and a good morning to our friend Ryan Clark. Hello, Ryan.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Doing well.
I wonder what we're going to talk about this morning.
What's that?
I wonder what we're going to talk about
the Pelicans.
We are actually
talking. You know what? This is why I like this show. Because you guys have enough time. Well, I don't have to talk about deflated balls for 40 minutes.
Yeah. Well, that's good, too.
Perhaps you should see your doctor. That said, we will get, obviously, to all of that. But we're just finishing up a conversation. I want to get your perspective because you're an athlete more recently, an active athlete more recently than Golic is. And we're a well-known player yourself, a high-caliber star player, and you obviously played with a lot of real big stars.
Right, definitely.
It is my belief Anthony Davis is the superstar in New Orleans. He is the cornerstone. He's everything, right? They need to do everything they can to keep him. They fired their coach Monty Williams yesterday, and people look at that and say, that's a bad move because everyone thinks that Anthony Davis likes Monty Williams. And here's what I said. I don't know if firing him is a good idea or a bad idea, but they obviously believe they can get a better coach. Mm-hmm. And if I'm Anthony Davis, I want to play for an organization that knows what it's doing. I want the guys at the top, the owner, to the man making the decision, the president or the GM or whatever it is, not coming to me and saying, Anthony, listen, what is it you want to do? What is it you think we should do? Because this is my way of keeping you here. No, I want Pat Riley knocking on the door. Here we go. This is my guy. This is the coach. This is who you're going to play for. This is going to win. This is the best we can do. Let's go out there and do it. I want to play for a guy with a vision. Golic, of course, doesn't see it that way.
That's right, because, the ownership there has had so much success in the playoffs as New Orleans has had. They made
brand new ownership
for the first time with a coach that Anthony Davis likes. Or you can say what you want to him as about a coach. If they think they can get a better coach, I understand that. I find it interesting that you say forget about the relationship when the first guy you talk about taking the spot is Calipari, who has a relationship with Anthony Davis. So, I mean, which is it? You want to relate? Do you care about a relationship or not care about a relationship? Because if you bring in Calipari, that's one of the reasons you're doing it, because he has a relationship with Anthony Davis.
Or it may be one of the reasons why you can get him. If you perceive getting Calipari to be a coup, one of the reasons you are able to get him is because he's tight with Anthony Davis.
I agree with you that if a team feels they can do better, they should do better. But your thought process about a superstar player is so far off in basketball, I can't even tell you.
Ryan, tell him why he's wrong.
I know, because he's not.
Thank you, Ryan.
Because he's not. Because the thought process in basketball is different. If it was football, it's a totally different thing. Because too many people have to play in football. Too many people matter in football. But in basketball, it's only 5 on the court at one time. One guy can change the whole flow of a team, the whole course of an organization. And if you're New Orleans, because, I live in Louisiana, people leave. You look, star players don't want to stay in New Orleans, and they have historically not stayed. You lose Chris Paul, and you lose other guys because they want to go to other markets. So with Anthony Davis, you're not necessarily letting him make the decision, or it's not even true that you care what he says, but you let him say it. You go to him, hey, Anthony, listen, is there anybody you would like to coach? What type of coach would you like to play for? Even if you go in a totally different direction, the fact that you've consulted him makes him feel some type of comfort that you understand I'm a star player, you respect my thoughts and wishes, and you want to know what I want. Now, going forward in the future, when it's time to make that decision in free agency, you say, you know what? These guys here really care about me. Maybe if I go somewhere else, they won't be this way with me. And you try to get them to stay that way. But that's the way it works in basketball. And it's not necessarily because of Anthony Davis. It's because of what all the other stars have gotten and the respect that they've gotten on their teams.
I get what you're saying. All right, I understand that. But let me give you a couple of counterpoints, if I can. One, if you ask Anthony Davis what he wants and then you don't do it, then I think you're better off not having asked him in the first place.
Well, sometimes it doesn't happen, though.
Anthony Davis isn't demanding a certain coach. You're having a give and take. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. Ryan makes an excellent point. How do you not see it?
Two, I don't know that they haven't done that. Who knows if they are not doing that.
Well,
you might ask him for some input.
But that's not the position you're putting forward. We're reacting to your position of they should we don't care what he wants. This is what we're going to do, and this is the kind of athlete that Anthony Davis should be. Just sit back and say, this is how we're going to do business.
And Greeny, you mentioned Pat Riley. There's no Pat Rileys in New Orleans. If you have a Pat Riley, then that guy can go to Anthony Davis. We're going to get you the best coach because I know what wins. I know what you need. I'll get it here for you. They don't have a guy there that can do that.
Let me give you the final argument, and this is my summation. Who's the greatest player of all time and why?
Michael Jordan.
Because
he won championships.
Because he won 6 titles. Michael Jordan, every single year, yelled, screamed, complained about who they were drafting, who they were picking. He wanted to have more input. He just wanted to take every guy who came out of North Carolina. And Jerry Krause, to his everlasting credit, said organizations win championships, not players. He has been vilified for saying it forever, even though what he actually said was correct. And that's the reason they won all those titles, because he kept surrounding him with the right people. And ultimately, it worked out to Jordan's benefit because he's now considered the greatest player of all time, which he was.
Right.
But the trump card that he holds over anybody else is he won 6 rings and they didn't, besides
you
Russell.
keep bringing up 2 people, Pat Riley and Phil Jackson, like they grow on trees.
Jerry Krause.
All right, Jerry Krause, like they grow on trees. They don't.
Is Jerry Krause considered? Do people give him credit for being a genius? Do people compare?
The thing is, and even though he said, okay, organizations win championships, not players. I'm not going to do everything Michael wants. Michael still got to voice his opinion. He still got to be heard. Now, if they went a different direction, they did. They weren't like, you know what, Mike, you're talking too much. You keep coming in here demanding things. We don't want you on the team. He wasn't that crazy. He didn't think organizations wanted that much.
Right.
He understood that player could help him win it. And so, to his credit, he did the right things, but Mike still said what he wanted to say.
I'm not suggesting that, but what I am saying is if Anthony Davis does become a free agent and he goes on one of these tours and every team in the league is going to want to do everything they have, fire every player they have to get him, I think one of the things that he will use as his decision, if he's smart, is where do they have a stable organization, smart owner, smart guy running the organization, someone with a vision of how they're going to put me in a position to win championships. And if you are demonstrating that your people right where you are doing that, to me it's a plus, not a minus.
I don't understand what your point is then.
My point is if you go to a place, and let's say he's a free agent, and he goes to a place where they have no coach. They go to a place and the GM says to him, look, who do you want to be the coach? Whoever you want to be the coach, that's who I'll hire.
See,
I don't want to go play.
You're going too far. You always take it too far. Ryan and I said a discussion. Ryan and I didn't say the player. The team says, oh, Mr. Player, who do you want? The player says, I demand this guy. That's always where you go.
People are saying they shouldn't have fired Monty Williams solely because Anthony Davis likes him.
Okay, so we could disagree with them. Now we're not talking about them. We're talking about your opinions and your thought process, which is ridiculous because that's where you take it. Oh, who do you want to coach? I want that. We're not talking about that. We're talking about a discussion amongst management and superstar player and go from there.
Ryan, tell him why he's wrong.
Yeah, I told you earlier, he's not.
Okay. Mike and Mike. I don't like where this conversation is going. One bit. Not one bit. All right, Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Ryan Clark, who at some point I'll figure this out, work it all out, and figure out that I've got this thing right.
That's what he does to me, 20 hours a week for 15 years.
Here with his Subway fresh take all morning long. Let's get to the football stuff here. So Mike and I were not here yesterday, and our basic take walking in, and so for those who've not had a chance yet, Ryan, to hear yours, our basic take walking in was, I agree with Tedd Wells, based on everything I've read and seen, that the evidence shows it is much more likely, I would include the word much, more likely than not, that something happened and Tom Brady knew about it / was involved in it. The fact that that Wells found the Patriots in their own way and Brady himself to not be fully cooperative, I think also add to it. So I agree with the fact that the Patriots were deserving of some sort of punishment here. My personal opinion is that 4 games and a first-round draft pick are heavy-handed. It's too much based upon what the quote-unquote crimes were. That, I think, is a summation, if you will, of the opinions Mike and I have.
We thought it was heavy-handed. We would have said a game at most, but we understand why the league went the way they went. So, what do you think?
I think I'm kind of the same mind. If you just talking to different people in the league and talking to coaches and some execs, they felt like it would be akin to the PED process. I actually tweeted on the day the Tedd Wells report came out, kind of jokingly. I tweeted just because Pats fans love me and I'm always up here. I figure that it'd be good if I just reached out and touched him via Twitter. I was like PED users gain a competitive advantage and they get 4 games. I was like, so Tom Brady should get no more than 4 games. But the joke was that I was saying that he could possibly get 4 games, and everybody goes crazy on Twitter. But I just felt like the NFL was going to make a stand. And also, if you look at the way they behaved after the situation came about, after they were reported, if Tom Brady comes out the week of the Super Bowl and says, you know what, guys, I don't really know if the PSI is correct, but I like the footballs a certain way. I like to feel them. I don't really talk about the specifications with our equipment managers, and maybe we deflated them a little bit too much. And that's on me. That's my fault. I apologize. It's not something we do every game.
Right.
I just feel the balls out. Obviously, this game, they weren't right. It's $25,000 fine, and it's over. It's over. Nobody calls Tom Brady a cheater. Nobody calls him a liar. This is not part of his image, because I don't really say it's part of his legacy. It's not part of his image, and we move on from it. But it's the way you handle it after that. And I was watching yesterday, just watching some interviews. They ask him, they're like, Tom, did you cheat? And he's like, no, I don't think so. I think I'm a player that always plays in the rules. If you don't do anything wrong and somebody asks you, do you cheat? It's like, heck no, I don't cheat. I'm always within the rules. And he wasn't even staunch in that rebuttal. And so for me, I feel like the suspensions were okay. Maybe they get appealed down to 2 or 3 games, and you come down heavy-handed as the league, so the people watching outside say you're protecting the shield. But the first-round pick and a 4th-round pick, I thought that was huge. After not being implicated in this particular situation, I thought the New England Patriots would be punished because of a culture that they feel of cheating or a history of cheating. But to take 2 picks, that's unprecedented. To find a team $1 million, it's the biggest fine in NFL history. So I really wasn't expecting that. So I thought it was heavy-handed on that side.
I agree with that, Mike. And maybe the thinking behind the team is not only the history, but also the lack of cooperation in this case, not making McNally available the second time.
Lack of cooperation. You have other employees in your organization that were involved in this. So you hold, if an employee is involved in a company, the company can get stung for it if the employee does something illegal. So I get it. And then past history comes into play. So we all seem to agree. We think it was heavy-handed. I understand why the league wanted to come down with the heavy hand, but we do think it was excessive.
Ryan, again, you just got out of the league. You were an active player as recently as last year, so you're closer on a personal level to a lot of guys in the league than Mike may be, having been out as long as he's been out. What are the players around the NFL saying?
Well, we have very nice guys like James Harrison, who's like, it should be more. When certain guys like that, and then there are other guys who think it's a lot. And most of them feel like me. They understand Tom Brady's role in the reason he was punished that way. But a lot of people think that the fines on the suspensions or the fines on the team and the takeaways of the draft picks were excessive. But you have those people who were really close to the New England Patriots and not in the organization, but had to play them year after year, that were beaten by them lot of years, like me, and they feel differently because they've always felt like they were cheated. I remember getting to Pittsburgh and talking to guys and being like, man, it just felt like they knew everything we were going to do. And some of that's great coaching. Bill Belichick's a great coach, a phenomenal coach. Tom Brady is a phenomenal football player. And so some of those things are coaching, but it is situations where guys will be like, man, we call this play, and every time we called it, they had the exact play drawn up to beat it. They knew the exact motion to run. And when you're a football player, that doesn't happen all the time.
In a way, it's like the PED thing that we were saying is when a player gets busted for PEDs, now we question every time they're at the plate, or when did it start? So when Spygate came to play and they got disciplined for filming, now I could see other players saying, well, they did it there. Are they still doing it but getting away with it? It always makes a player question. When I agree with Ryan, I think a lot of it is great coaching and great scouting. They're not the only team that goes out on a field, and I'm sure you've done it, Ryan, through your study. You see an offensive set, and you've now narrowed it down through your scouting report to kind of know what they're going to do. X amount of plays. That's what you do, and they do it extremely well. But because they have that Spygate hanging over their head, people will question it even more.
We're Mike and Mike. Here's another story that I found interesting. Major League Baseball has now improved the security of its game balls. Even before Brady was penalized, Major League Baseball boosted its prevent defense as part of a new security plan this season to further safeguard game balls. A Major League Baseball representative, an MLB rep, now watches them get carried by a clubhouse assistant from the umpire's room to the field. And if the supply of 8 dozen or so runs low during a game, an MLB security person is sent to retrieve more. In the past, a ball boy or ball girl did those jobs alone. CC Sabathia said, quote, "We can't deflate them. It's precautionary, I guess." So
I was wondering the same thing.
Yeah. So here's the thing. The one thing that did come up yesterday, because there were a ton of football people at the upfront where Mike and I were, and there was a lot of this conversation, is, for a league that makes $10 billion or whatever it is a year, there were a lot of things on game day that are sort of left in a it's not really that different from the NFL to a high school game. Yeah. Local people keeping track of the clock. The ball boys are bringing the ball out there. I mean, I might say to you, they probably never would have thought of taking the air out of a football.
I guarantee you the thought process was that they never thought it would happen.
Never thought of it.
Here, the balls are inspected. Then now they sit for a bit, and then they're taken to the field. I don't think anybody thinks you're going to secretly go in there in a minute and a half deflate 12 footballs. I don't think when you're making the rule, that comes to mind and say, well, we better safeguard against that one.
Ryan, let's just say for the sake of argument, they did what they're accused of doing. Mm-hmm. That the two ball boys, with the knowledge of Tom Brady, did let air out of the footballs after they were inspected. Is that, in your mind, markedly different from offensive linemen putting Vaseline on themselves, any player, including yourself, or particularly a wide receiver, putting stickum illegally on his gloves, things that are also against the rules? Is what they are accused of having done something that is, in your view, different from those?
It is different. I think it is different, and it's not it's they don't really check for those other things. Like, they don't walk around.
Well, they do now. Officials will check offensive linemen's jerseys.
Yeah, they touch them when they walk out. They call numbers 50,
right,
65. They check them. But they if you spray your hands with stickers, they don't walk around and touch your hands. So it's not really. To me, if an offensive lineman is checked and then after he's checked, he goes back in the locker room and greases himself down, I think that would be the same type of situation.
How come? Because aren't they? And listen, I've been one who said, you know what, you cross the line, you got caught, you get punished, but I'm not losing my mind over it. What's different? What's different if let's just stay with the offensive lineman. He sprays himself down, okay, and then gets checked and gets busted for it, as opposed to, so he sprays himself down to understand when they walk down the tunnel, at times, refs will check their jerseys. And if he gets busted there, he'll get fined, he'll have to go change his jersey. What's different than you walk out, the ref looks at you, tests it, and then you go back in before the game starts, and then you spray. You're still cheating. Yeah. Right. You're still circumventing the rules.
You're saying that's worse. Yeah. I think that's what you're saying.
My point is, why is it worse?
Because that's
my point.
Right, so if you spray yourself down, you get checked, and you go in and take it off, you have cheated, right? Now, if you do it again, if coming back out, you spray yourself, now you circumvented the process. They circumvented the process in the fact that they got the balls checked and then knowingly said, okay, the balls have been checked, I won't be checked again, now I'll go do the deed. Whereas if you're caught before, you're still cheating, but it's not the process of, okay, you know what, we're going to knowing and willingly get these balls checked, and then after they're checked, now we're going to bring them to go. So now we won't be caught. Now they won't be checked again. And I think when you involve multiple people in the process, it's different to me with multiple people involved than the one lineman being involved.
That I agree with. I agree with the multiple people and others have to get involved. I don't agree. I don't see a difference in an O-lineman spraying himself before he got checked or after he got checked. He knew when he was spraying himself, he was circumventing the rules. Either way.
Right.
So I don't see a difference in that.
I'm not saying that O-lineman spraying himself isn't cheating.
Right.
I think the acts or the effects on the game are exactly the same. I think if an O-lineman does that, he should be punished for cheating.
Oh, exactly.
Just as if the balls are deflated, you should be punished for cheating. And I think both of them shouldn't be as heavy of a penalty as $25,000 is defined in the CBA, and that's what they should be. The process in which the New England Patriots went about doing it, to me, makes their deed worse. And also the way you behave after. Even if Tom Brady comes out after and say, you know what, man, this is a big game. And for me, I just wanted the balls a certain way, and I wanted them perfect. Mm-hmm. Or even if he goes before the game, tells the equipment guy, hey, man, this is where I want the balls. They bring him to get checked, and 11 of them are found underinflated, and he say, okay, guys, they got us. They won't let us play. Now let's get the balls at the right specifications, and then we'll go play. But to tell a guy, hey, listen, or because we don't know, I can't say he told a guy.
Right.
But for equipment managers to get the balls checked, then duck off and deflate the balls, there's so much conniving and scheming that goes into that. To me, that makes it worse.
Because I agree.
Yeah, that makes it a situation. Makes it a situation to me now. It's not just about Tom Brady. The lineman is just about the lineman.
That I agree.
If I have stickum on my hands, it's just about me.
That I agree with. Whether a lineman did it before he got checked or after got checked, to me, there's no difference. Getting other people involved, I think, definitely makes it different. And then how they're acting afterward, I think, really magnifies the situation.
It's a team thing in the sense of the Patriots' fumbles since 2006 are way below the league average.
Yes.
So when you hear something like this, kind of like you said about Spygate, it's like, are they still doing it? So now you have to think, either you're coaching, protecting the ball so well, or you just don't get people that fumble that you're not fumbling as much as other people, whereas we think, man, had they been deflating balls the whole time? But Jarvis Green-Ellis never fumbles as a Patriot, goes to the Bengals, has 4 fumbles in 1 year. Now you start to think about those things, and those will always be question marks. You'll never be able to prove those things or know, but you'll always think that way.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Mike and Mike. ESPN Radio.
With the action on the court, the diamond, or the gridiron.
Comes alive.
The NBA.
The San Antonio Spurs are the world champions.
Major League Baseball.
San Francisco Giants are the champions of the baseball world.
A new college football playoff.
College football playoff national champions, the Ohio State Buckeyes.
You're home for the best in sports play-by-play.
ESPN Radio. Mike and Mike.
You said you had an analogy you wanted to bring up.
So Jason Stark brought up the fact that if a lot of players do it, then it's not cheating. It's not breaking the rule. Whether it's putting pine tar in your mid or whatever, if the league doesn't discipline you for it or bust you for it, then it's not cheating or not breaking the rules. I completely disagree with that. Let's go with one cop on the side of the road looking for speeders, and the speed limit is 55 miles an hour. Okay? You're going 60 miles an hour. You going over the speed limit?
Yes.
You think he's going to pull you over?
Unlikely.
Okay. You're going 65, 62, 4, 65. Maybe he'll pull you over.
Right.
You're going 70. Probably going to pull you over, right?
Yeah.
So there's a line. It doesn't mean the others aren't breaking the rules.
No.
The others are breaking the rules. But I'm just going off the fact that Jason said that that's not cheating or breaking the rules.
Well,
yes, it is. So this is what happens with players. Now I'm going to take you on the field. So I agree with Jason in the fact that players try and get away with a ton. So what happens is you try and get away with this. No one's calling it. You try and get away with a little more. No one's calling it. Then you try and get away with a little more, and boom, they call it. And you find the line. You find the line to where you can push it. You're still breaking the rules to that point, but there is breaking it to the point of when authority will actually step in and reprimand you for it.
I agree with Jason's distinction because he said there's a line between gamesmanship and cheating. And I actually agree. I know you don't, but I do agree with it. And I think your analogy is a good one. If you're going 58 and a 55, yes, you're speeding. But are you really committing a crime?
But if
isn't there a difference between going 58 and going 90?
That's what I'm saying.
And that's the difference between gamesmanship and cheating.
Well, that's exactly what I said. But you're sugarcoating it. You're breaking the rules. You want to dress it up with gamesmanship. That's fine. But technically, you're breaking the rules. The cop could pull you over and give you a ticket for going 59 and a 55, which you'll roll your eyes and say, really? What's going on here? But it's not like you're going to go fight it in court. Maybe you will, because if you were doing 59, technically, he can do that. So if you want to get cute and change the rules, listen, that's what I did as a player. That's not cheating. That's gamesmanship. But you're breaking the rules.
Yes.
But there's a line, so you break one, they let it go. You're going to take a little more. You give an inch, take the yard. That's what you're going to try and do.
There are also unwritten rules, which is everybody does this versus this is something that is really not something everybody does.
I agree with it.
And I think my sense from a lot of people, particularly Tim Hasselbeck, the day this whole thing broke when he was on with us, was that this crosses that. And so when the example of guys putting Vaseline on their arms or cooking spray on their jerseys comes up, I do separate that from this because I do think that's something that happens all the time, hence gamesmanship. Yes, it's against the rules.
Right.
But it's gamesmanship. Everyone does it. You get caught. You say, okay, you got me. You wipe it off and you get on with your day. Versus this, which is the balls are inspected. You then surreptitiously, you are clearly taking another level of circumventing the inspection.
I agree there's
and
a different level to this.
So to me, that's the line between gamesmanship and cheating.
No. They're all breaking the rules.
I'm not saying
you
all
want to use that
rules.
word gamesmanship, and I get it, but you're breaking the rules. It's just a line. So you say, I'm going to do this. I can get away with it. I'll do this. Well, they're still not calling it. I'll do this. They're still not calling it. I'm going to do okay, I found the line. Can we look up the dictionary definition of gamesmanship? I'm just curious. And this is a line, but then you add to it. If this was a line crossed by a 5-11 team with a mediocre quarterback, that's the next thing. Are we treating it equal?
No, we're not. The same way we don't treat steroids the same with Barry Bonds and Alex Rodriguez than we do with some guy who's barely hanging on in the majors. Because we don't really care about him, and we care enormously about the home run hitter.
Wrong.
I'm not wrong.
You are absolutely wrong.
Tell me why.
If the biggest star in baseball got busted today for PEDs, how many games did he lose?
I think 50.
Okay. I think it's more.
Did they increase that? I'm sorry. In my head, they may have increased it. You're right. I think you are right. They went to 80.
So the biggest star in the game tomorrow gets busted for PEDs. He's out 80 games.
Right.
A guy you never heard of in your life gets busted tomorrow for PEDs. What does he get?
Oh, I see.
He gets 80 games.
Yes.
So it's exactly the same.
That part, obviously,
So what I'm saying is, add to this, it's the Patriots, Tom Brady, that organization. They're getting more. Now, some of it because of Spygate, but Tom Brady didn't get 4 games. They're not looking at Spygate for Tom Brady. Tom Brady got 4 for this. My point is, if this happened to a lesser team with a lesser quarterback, is that quarterback getting 4 guys? Are we going through all of this?
He may have gotten part of that for the obfuscation and the lack of cooperation.
Right. I agree with you.
By the way, and you know what? And I guess I have to stand corrected on this also, because the dictionary definition of gamesmanship is the use of methods, especially in a sports contest, that are dubious or seemingly improper but not strictly illegal. That actually does differ from what my understanding or what I expected it to be. Not strictly illegal. Well, the other stuff is strictly illegal. It is. The other definition
it is accepted more, but it is illegal.
Let me read, and that was where I was making the distinction between gamesmanship and cheating. Let me read the other definition. The technique or practice of manipulating people or events so as to gain an advantage or outwit one's opponents or competitors. That's a little closer to what I was thinking. But the words not strictly illegal do change my perspective. What did Jason Stark just write back? He's listening and he's fighting back. That it wasn't, I didn't say it wasn't breaking the rules. I said there was a fine line between gamesmanship and cheating. Golic misquoted me.
All right, Jason. Is there a difference between breaking the rules and cheating?
I think yes. I think both Jason and I are saying yes. There's a difference between breaking the rules and cheating.
So if you've broken the rules, so if you knowingly spray your jersey, which everybody does, are you cheating?
Yes, you're cheating.
Are you breaking the rules?
Yes.
Okay. What's the difference?
Well,
Jason's trying to differ between cheating and breaking the rules. They're the same thing. There are degrees. I completely agree with that. But don't tell me spraying your jersey, well, that's gamesmanship. That's not cheating or breaking the rules. It's cheating and it's breaking the rules. They're one and the same.
Fresh Take, by the way, is brought to you by Subway. Discover the new Subway Chipotle chicken melt with new guacamole. Subway, eat fresh. Let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
You're a receiver.
Yeah.
You trap a ball, and you get up screaming, I caught it, I caught it, I caught it. Is that gamesmanship? Is that cheating? Is there even a rule against that?
What rule did you break?
So maybe
outside of just the moral of lying about it, there's no rule.
I'm thinking through it. So maybe that's gamesmanship.
Yeah, that's gamesmanship.
That's gamesmanship. Sure. Gamesmanship is saying is when you knock the ball out of bounds and you immediately start pointing the other way in a basketball game. You're trying to fool the referee. Right. How about flopping?
Well, they're calling flopping now. Now it's against the rule. So now you can get called for it. You trap a ball, that's up to the official to say whether you caught it or not.
Yeah, you may actually be right on this one.
You're darn right I'm right.
Which aggravates me.
Been right twice this morning.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Marcellus Wiley, the star of ESPN2 Sports Nation, is with us on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline. Good morning, Sal.
Hey, what's going on, Mike and Mike? It's been a minute.
You sound excited, and we're excited to chat with you as well, although I'm sure you were not thrilled with the way matters went last night for your beloved Clippers. They do come home with a 3-2 series lead. I enjoyed you and Michelle going back and forth through what was obviously a sensational series between the Clippers and the Spurs. How are you feeling right now about a Clippers team that many are pointing at as the favorites to win the West?
Yeah, I mean, not thrilled, obviously, after what we saw last night, but I expected that. It was funny, they were asking us yesterday, did I expect us to close out the series in Houston, and I did not. Despite being a fan, I could still be objective, and I just knew the flow of this series. Houston wouldn't go down without a little more fight than we had seen so far in that series. So all things said and considered, they come back home Thursday night, tomorrow night, at home in L.A., Staples Center. First time ever for this franchise to advance to the Western Conference Finals. So it's going to be poetic that they do it in front of their fans.
And I do think they'll eventually win it. If they were to lose this series, will you get rid of your Clipper bed sheets until the season starts next year?
Never, ever. But, one, I don't like the fact that you even put out into the universe we're going to lose this series. But two, I'm never getting rid of my bed sheets, man. They replaced my Star Wars bed sheets that I had growing up.
Mike and Mike, Marcellus, Wiley, how about the emergence of Blake Griffin? I don't know what you're, how tight you are with those guys, but, I mean, Blake Griffin has really emerged, I think, in this postseason from what he was, which was an extraordinarily talented player who, between a combination of having Chris Paul on his team, occasionally injury, and whatever else it was, never seemed to be the guy who carried his team in the playoffs, to a guy who is now doing that. Even last night he had 30 points. What do you make of the emergence of Blake Griffin?
Yeah, one of the blessings of having this job in the media and then also being a fan of the same team is the access you have. And knowing all these guys personally, including Doc Rivers, Blake Griffin is a worker. He's a gym rat. He's a guy that when he first got into the NBA, hurt his knee, was out the entire season, and answered that challenge, answered the bell of coming out here being a rookie of the year. And every single year, answering the challenge. So the challenge used to be, Blake, can you evolve your game? Can you get a mid-range jump shot? Can you just stop dunking, do more than that? And he answered that bell. Blake, can you work on your free throws? There was a time where DeAndre and Blake were bad free throw shooters. Now Blake is not. And just knowing him personally and his work ethic, he's hired one of the toughest trainers known in sports. And with that training comes a guy who puts in the work, who has the confidence from his work to go out there because of his preparation and to do great things. Blake Griffin easily is a top 10 player, and he's looking forward to cracking that top 5 consistently, and more importantly, putting his team on his back along with the other star and Chris Paul and taking us all the way.
All right, Marcellus, let's go over to football, and we all saw the discipline come down to Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. Your thoughts on how they were disciplined, and too much, too little, just right? What do you think?
You know, in totality, when you talk about the loss of draft choices, first rounder, fourth rounder, $1 million fine, you can understand that that was a fair penalty. But when you get specific and you look at Tom Brady and just 4 games, I thought that was too light. Tom Brady cheated. Tom Brady not only cheated, he lied. Not only did he cheat and lie, but he obstructed the investigation. Now, I come from a place where when I was learning the game of football, outside the fundamentals, one of the things you learned about the game was the ethics, was the discipline, the process of preparation. So key to any football player. And I always stayed on the clean line. I always stayed on the positive side. I stayed on the side where, there is a bold divide between doing the right thing and cheating. And Tom Brady obviously and overtly crossed that line. And I just think that should be duly punished because of the fact that it's sending a message to all the clean players, not just professional football players, but younger players, that the reward is worth the risk. The reward of winning 4 Super Bowls and the reward of being the Tom Brady, it's worth the risk of compromising the integrity of the game. It's worth the risk of cheating, because if you get to this place, we're just going to slap you on the wrist. I thought that they should have sent a stronger message to Tom Brady than just a 4-game suspension.
Yeah, Greeny and I both thought it should have been about a game, that's it, but we understand why the league went further than they did, because as we did as well, you just gave different reasons for if you believe that he cheated, then covering it up, and then not giving information. So let me ask it to you this way, because we've seen over the years the guys that you stick them when they shouldn't, guys that spray their jerseys with a substance when they shouldn't, cheating that way and breaking the rules that way. So what if this happened and Tom came out basically right away and said, you know what, I for that weather, I wanted the footballs a little less, you know what, and they caught us, my bad, shouldn't have done it. If that had happened, so now you're taking out if you think he lied, or taking out any part of the cover-up, if that just happened, then do you think it should have been less of a suspension? Are you putting more of the suspension on the after-the-fact actions of him?
Well, I thought he should have been suspended 8 games to a year in totality, everything I just said, the lie, the cheat, the obstruction. Now, if you just say he just cheated, I could understand just the 4 games. Once you cheat, to me, 1, I lose respect for you because you did it the wrong way. But 2, I look at how you affected the game. Advantages to you and your team, disadvantages to your opponents. I'm not saying Tom Brady can't play the game of football without cheating. Tom Brady is the A student that happens to show up to the test with a cheat sheet. And he didn't need that cheat sheet because he's a smart student. He is a student. But if Tom Brady decides on this test, I don't need my cheat sheet. I know these answers, and I fill it out, as people were saying he did in the second half of the AFC Championship game and the Super Bowl. But the teacher walks by and sees that same cheat sheet. I don't care if you used it or not. I don't care the result. I don't care if you needed it. The fact that your intent was to cheat where I'm from would either get you suspended or expelled. Now, Tom Brady was suspended 4 games, all understood. But once you make that decision, and people outside the game may not understand the procedure in which the footballs come in, Tom Brady makes his name and his money off of that same football. That is his instrument. He knows that he has to know everything that is regarding that football. Tom Brady decides in his mind to be devious, to cross that line, and to go through that process. I don't take that lightly because I know there are guys who know the rules and decide to stay on the positive, good side of that same rule. So I still would have gave him 4 games, even if he didn't lie and obstruct the process.
Have you lost respect for Jerry Rice since he came out and admitted he used Sickum illegally?
Yes. Absolutely. Now, Stickum is a different degree than deflating football, which is a different degree than I'm taking steroids. Like, we understand that there's a scope and there's a scale of these things. But if you say where I thought Jerry Rice was before the conversation of Stickum and then after, of course you take a step back. I lose a lot. I had teammates before that are my friends, great friends, who got caught with HGH and steroids. And to their face, I would say, hey, man, you know you're in a different category for me. And the sad thing about this is, for Tom Brady, is he's an all-time great quarterback. But now we're going to have the conversation when we put him in there with the Joe Montanas, Dan Marino, John Elway, and Peyton Manning. And when you put them in that conversation and you start to split hairs, all of a sudden you start to realize, I'm not having this same conversation about Joe Montana. I'm not having not just 1, but 2 incidents that loom over his resume. And if you look at whatever Spygate was, 7 years of taping signals that all of a sudden we burned the tapes. Who knows what that led to on the field? And then you talk about Deflategate, and you talk about those things in respect to other greats who didn't have this on their record. It makes you take a step back with Tom Brady and his accomplishments. It's just that simple for me.
It's a very compelling conversation. It always is with our friend Marcellus Wiley. Pleasure. Thanks for getting up early, Marcellus. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Marcellus.
All right. Take care, guys.
This has been the best of Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio Pod Center. To hear more from Mike and Mike, log on to ESPNradio.com and become an ESPN Radio Insider.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Hey, Mike Golic here, and I certainly love to fish. And when my dad took me out fishing for the first time when I was 6 and I caught that bluegill, I was so proud. Such a great memory, an experience everybody should have. Whether it's the first of the day or first of a lifetime, TakeMeFishing.org wants you to get out and make your first catch. And if you show them using hashtag FirstCatchSweeps, you can win an Evinrude E-Tech G2 powered Ranger bass boat. Learn more at TakeMeFishing.org.
No purchase necessary. 48 U.S. and D.C. 18 and older. Ends 5/25/15. Void in Alaska, Hawaii, and where prohibited. See site for rules.
2 of baseball's best go head-to-head in interleague action when the Tigers head to St. Louis to face the Cardinals. That one is gone. The pregame at 7 Eastern, first pitch at 8, Sunday on ESPN and ESPN Radio.